episode of the Pick and Pop podcast presented by Big Apple Basketball, BAB. I am your host, Chris Williams, aka Uncle Smoothie. It is my pleasure to navigate and keep us along this journey, impart some of my wisdom, more importantly, learn something from you. Today, we have an excellent topic, super guest. Let's get right into it. Let's add a smoothie flavor. Our topic for today, the inequality of women in sports. The inequality of women in sports. And again, you got to have super guests. We're going to start it off with Dianne Nolan, champion coach, ESPN analyst, educator, and the co-host of the more popular podcast, Mac Chat. Coach Nolan, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Pleasure to be here. It's a hot topic. I couldn't be with hotter people, so I'm happy to be here.
Again, I have to bring in a younger baller. I got my friend here, Mckenna Klineyoung, super rower from Marist. This young lady is going to give us some insight on another topic, rowing, that we may not be as familiar with. Again, the ladies do their thing in the rowing. So Mckenna, how are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have both of you ladies. Let's jump right into it. First question, we're going to start off with you, Coach. Where did your love and fascination with sports begin?
I was raised by a mother who was a PE teacher, and she was also a basketball coach. So this was way back when it wasn't fashionable for a wife and a mother to work and then be involved with athletics. She herself was a U.S. Olympic field hockey player. So in 1952, she made the U.S. team. So we're talking, years and years ago. So she really created that interest. I have an older brother who was quite an athlete and ended up playing collegiate ball at Temple during the Big Five era. So I kind of just grew up around sports. I think if I didn't want to play sports, they would have thrown me out of the house. Sounds
great. Mckenna, how about for you? Where did it begin? Where your love for sports, rowing, whatever it may be, where did it begin for you?
Yeah, so I grew up, all my cousins on my dad's side played basketball. So I had this goal that I was going to play basketball when I grew up and all these things. That did not happen. I managed my high school girls basketball team, which was a great experience, but didn't really do sports in high school. And then when I came to Marist, I actually walked onto the women's rowing team kind of out of nowhere. And so my love of sports has kind of evolved from just being thrown into a Division I athletics program and, holding on and going along with the ride.
Sounds great. Now, something I picked up from both of you, what I was looking for, when you first began and your love started, you did mention the fellas a little bit. Did you always play with guys early on? Who I want to start that off. Did it always become just the ladies, or did you start off with guys? I did hear the fellas once in a while there. Coach?
Yes, my brother kind of took me along and really shepherded a little bit of my athletic prowess. He would stand on the side during races, and say, listen, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. So, I was just known as his little sister. So we were, and the neighborhood I grew up in, it wasn't segregated male, female. You just went down to the courts. You just, hooped it up. Didn't play a lot of real, I would say, competitive games, but you would just, hoop it up with who was ever there. And really didn't feel anything different because I was a girl, Now, I was decently okay, so I didn't drop, but I kind of, got in the mud with them, put it that way.
Well, Coach, I'm going to assume you were very nice. I know you're being modest. Now, Mckenna, on your end, you mentioned your cousins. Were some of those cousins boys?
Yeah, so all 4 of my cousins who played basketball were guys. And so it was very competitive, and I didn't get to play a lot at family gatherings. Every once in a while they'd let me, and then they'd be like, no, you're not good enough for this. But I definitely played some youth sports where it was more integrated boys and girls, and that was a little bit more equal. But I definitely saw the change as I kind of aged, where it wasn't so much that you could play with boys anymore and you kind of had to stay on your own side.
Interesting, which leads directly to my next question. When was the first time you started to notice any inequality in sports where, wow, there's a difference between guys and girls were being treated differently? Mckenna, you go first.
Yeah, so I would say probably like end of elementary school. I was playing youth rugby, so kind of a male-dominated sport in general. But so like I was on a team, I was probably the only girl on my youth team. And so like felt fine about it all the way up until I entered middle school. And then in middle school, it felt very much like playing a predominantly boys sport wasn't really accepted, and like that it was getting too aggressive for me to participate then. So I ended up backing away from that. But my sister played high school rugby for 4 years, and I definitely think that women are just as aggressive as men when it comes to some of those things.
Great point. Coach, how about you? The first time you noticed any inequality?
The first time I noticed, I got up enough nerve to go to the rectory. I was raised a Roman Catholic, and asked the Monsignor, why couldn't the girls have a CYO team?
Wow.
And I went with two other of my girlfriends. The three of us went, knocked on the door, booked the appointment. He brought us into his office, and he, kind of was a big guy, Monsignor Lucid, and he just kind of looked at us and said, "Oh, you won't play? Okay, all right. We have practice at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning." He goes, "All right, you can have the gym at 7, and that's all." So obviously the worst time. Who wants to get up at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday? But and there's certainly the guys weren't going to practice then.
So he tried to make it tough for you ladies to have you get up so early and possibly make you think, I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
Interesting. Now, how about now? Let's fast forward to now. What do you see? Do you see any changes, or is it still the same? Coach.
Well, based on what immediately just happened during the tournament, I think you're going to see some changes. But up until that point, up until when Sedona Price filmed the weight room, there are quite a lot of differences. I mean, as far as expenditures, as far as marketing, as far as a lot of the treatment that goes kind of under the rug. When you say the marketing, when you say the women's teams usually get the assistant strength coach, or not the head guy, or not the head woman. And it's always, the second on the chain of command. And I think that's really huge. And I know I got on a podcast with a lot of the WBCA, a lot of the coaches, and with Mark Emmert, the head of the NCAA, and Dan Gavitt and Lynn Holtzman. And Dan Gavitt reports to, for instance, Mark Emmert. He's the head of basketball for the NCAA, and Lynn doesn't. So that alone, when you see the power, who answers to whom and who's got the power in the room, still with the guys.
Interesting, Coach. Let's elaborate a little bit more when you talked about the NCAA tournament that just passed, because I was going to bring it up. You brought it up first, how there's a difference between the weight room, which was shown on video, and the food service, which was unbelievable. And obviously, we did not know this until it was videotaped. But a lot of us who are aware of what goes on had an idea that this happens.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talk about the weight room, you talk about the food. How about the COVID testing? Different kinds of tests. And here's one that I just found out about. Really minor, but just to show you. In quarantine, the basketball players were issued puzzles, like to do, just to pass the time. The guys got a 500 piece and the women got a 150 piece puzzle. Oh. I mean, come on, order 500 piece. I mean, who thinks of that?
Unbelievable. Now, Mckenna, you're a student athlete right now. You're experiencing this. You're right in the middle of it. What can you tell us? What's your feeling? What's going on now? I know I'm familiar with Marist. The women's team just went to the NCAA tournament. I know they get mad love up there, probably a little bit more love than the guys currently. And it's been that way because they win. What's the feeling like for the ladies around the Marist campus?
Yeah, so definitely the Marist women's basketball team is one of our biggest teams on campus, and like that's very well known. Like they probably have the biggest fan base on campus, and it's well deserved. But I think when you look at our athletic department as a whole, that is not equally spread among the other teams. Like for example, my team in 2019 pre-COVID won Max and went to NCAAs, and not even our men's rowing team posted for us to like celebrate. And at the same time, our men's lacrosse team won Max, and like the school blew up. Like everyone was posting, and like my team was like, okay, like.
Whoa,
cool.
let's stop. McKenna, congratulations.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, currently
There you
reading
go.
back, so we're holding that for a little bit. Yeah, so like that's one big thing is like our basketball team for sure is like one of our top teams among all of our teams, including men's teams. But for all of the other women's teams, there's definitely a lack of support. And then I think another thing kind of going off what Coach said is like there's a difference in like the marketing and those things, but also like our weight training. So like rowing is a predominant like full body sport, and our weight training program is so lackluster. And like I train on the side at home too. And like, so I know what I should be doing for my body. And our training coach gives us like the most basic workouts to like lean and like tone. And I'm like, I'm trying to build muscle. Like my sport is all about power. Like, let's go. Like I want to deadlift. I want to squat. Like I want to do all of it. And like, we just don't do it.
I love it. Next question for you, Coach. I'll start off. We just had the WNBA draft. I watched it from start to finish. I thought it was a great job, well presented. What were your thoughts on watching that?
Well, I was excited because I thought on the heels of the publicity of the NCAA tournament, there was more talk about, as what McKenna just said, for more women to support it. You know, so it was like, all right, if you really believe in equality for women, then women have to start supporting each other. And I think the draft was well done. I thought, you know, in COVID, it's a little bit different, you know, where everybody's kind of remote. And I thought it was a good show. And I thought the network finally gave it its due. I mean, they put more than two people sitting at a table. It was more than Rebecca and, you know, Martin just talking. You know, they had different people. They interviewed Holly talking French to the Finland, you know, player, everyone. So I thought it was good. I think it was a good step. I think they did it purposely, you know, and you know, on the heels of the tournament. I thought it was good. I think it's a start.
Totally agree with you, Coach. I thought Holly Rowe did an exceptional job relating to the players and the families. And I think that's part of what we need to see more of, that feeling to bring more people in. McKenna, I'm not sure if you watched or you're into basketball, but you did touch on it. Do you have any feelings on that WNBA draft, or at least just seeing some of the players around campus there at Marist?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's really good, especially from a communication standpoint, like that they are starting to get equality in like how much it's being hyped up. And like, I know people all over social media were like really excited for the draft. And I know a lot of us were as female athletes. And so it's so inspirational to see female athletes being elevated and being celebrated for these incredible achievements, that it gives us hope that that's going to happen for all of us.
Love that word you used, hope. And I say this as a public speaker all the time. We all need hope. When we have hope, it gives something for us to strive for. I know there was a piece during this WNBA telecast when they harkened back to when the league first started. You saw the founders of it, the Lisa Leslies of the world, the young ladies who got it going. And then these new young upstarts said, I want to be like that or better. So, of course, it gives hope. Now let's get down to dollars and cents, ladies. This is where it all really revolves around. How upset and how much does it anger you to see the discrepancy in salaries from an NBA standpoint to a WNBA standpoint? Mckenna.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly frustrating to see, especially in that situation where like these players are working so hard and giving everything they have to this league, and who have to then go play abroad just to get some sort of money to like make up for that or get a second job, when like they're full-time athletes. They should be just training and doing all those things. Like the men don't have to do those things. And I don't think it's fair that women are being forced to do extra to make the same amount. And especially with some of the cuts and some of those things, like I just think it's super unfair and frustrating to see women go through that when they're working just as hard as the men are. Interesting.
Coach?
Well, I've had a little different take on the WNBA and NBA comparison, only because it's just the way the market is. I mean, like, the NBA players make more than some like professional tennis players or lacrosse players, so I think that's it becomes a little difficult, because that is a money making opportunity, different than college. Now, college, I think that's a whole different situation, but it is frustrating. And I think the only way it changes is all of us watching the draft. All of a sudden, advertisers, I mean, they get their money because it makes the owners money. The NBA makes, a lot of owners more wealthier. So I really think that the WNBA is doing a great job now of marketing. Look what they did with the new jerseys. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody wanted a WNBA jersey, and I think the new commissioner is, she comes from the financial world, Kathy Ilbert. And so she's going to, I think, really bring in some more marketing strategies, which will increase the desire to see them and bring in more money.
Love that, ladies. I love that you mentioned marketing, Coach. I think that's so important. Obviously, when you're talking dollars and cents, marketing is important, because you want people to come. You want the average fan, you want the casual fan to watch, rather than just always the basketball junkie like ourselves who's going to watch. I'm going to watch, Coach. I love the ladies, I love the guys, but again, you want someone who may be saying, I'm not sure about who Mckenna is. I heard about her. I want to go watch her. Now, with that being said, I'm going to play the advocate here. How about the entertainment value? Maybe I'm a fan who says, the ladies aren't so good. The ladies can't dunk, at least some of them. The ladies don't make all the spectacular plays. What do you have to say to combat that, Coach?
Well, I think that looking at the NCAA tournament, I think you're definitely right. The product has to be desirable. I mean, I don't want to see, a game where there's a lot of turnovers, nobody's making shots, and the play isn't good. I'm not going to watch that. I may buy one ticket, I won't come back. But the NCAA tournament for the women this year was outstanding. The product was great. I mean, people who had never watched a game said, hey, I caught that game. Like, I teach at inner city high school, and the guys and women were talking, hey, Miss, did you see that game? Hey, Coach, did you see that game? Like, you watched, that game? And I thought the product is good. So, if the product's good, people will come watch it. So I think the WNBA, the players now, I think, understand that. And I think you're going to see the product be elevated.
No question about it. Mckenna, you're up there with Maris. You guys have a good product year in and year out. I think you might be spoiled. What's your feeling on this?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think, it is a lot about like the entertainment value, like you said, and I completely agree with that. But I do think people don't just like tune into the women's games because they expect it's not going to be as exciting. But really, you saw in the NCAA tournament how exciting it can be. I know I was on the edge of my seat watching the Marist Louisville game because Marist held their own up until the half. And I was like, whoa, this is going to be insane, and like I stayed watching the whole game. And then I watched every single game Louisville played after that because I was like, I want them to go. If we held them off that long, like I want to watch that whole thing. And like, it gets you invested. I think you just have to be willing to give it a chance because, your perceptions are very off. Like women's games are just as exciting if you let them be.
Well, ladies, you make great points. And I must say, I do broadcasts for men and women in some of my favorite games this past season, or a couple of women's games. And because of the excitement, the atmosphere, the ladies really get after it. They're fundamentally sound. I do agree. I think the level of play is going higher, and that will bring in a casual fan. And Coach, I took something off of your Instagram, I believe Instagram, or it might have been your Twitter page, which talked about the ratings during the NCAA tournament were so much higher. Ratings and everything else, aside from women's basketball, were so much higher during the NCAA tournament, which tells us, to both of your points, that things are going in the right direction. Closing remarks, Mckenna, you first. Anything you want to leave with anyone who's just a casual fan? What would you tell them about rowing, any female sport, basketball, to get them interested?
I would say that you just have to remember how hard and how dedicated everyone who plays these sports is, men's or women's. Like, people have been training their whole lives to get to the collegiate level, to get to the professional level. And so just to honor that work and to just take an opportunity, and honestly, even if you don't know that you would like it or you think it might be boring, give it a shot, because some of those things are the most exciting moments that you could probably experience. And if you don't ever try, you'll never learn. And we just have to keep supporting all of athletics, because they work hard, and we just have to be big fans of everyone so that everyone has the same opportunities.
Mckenna, well said. Again, you're a junior or senior rower?
Senior.
Senior rower. Is the season over, or we still have something remaining?
My team is still on pause.
Okay.
So I'll keep you updated on that one.
You know what? I want everyone to keep an eye on my girl, Mckenna Klineyoung, super rower over at Marist. They're on pause now, but they're coming back strong, and I'm putting my money on Mckenna. I don't know a lot about rowing. I know they get up early. I remember that from when I was in school. With that being said, I understand they had a championship under their belt. Mckenna, she's on the Star Watch.
And Mckenna, what's your future plans?
I am working for a baseball team this summer, and then hoping to work for professional sports after college.
In what capacity?
Sports PR and like marketing.
Good. All right. Well, we need you out there. Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely.
Great job, Coach. With that being said, your closing remarks, what would you like to leave on this topic, the inequality of women's in sports?
Well, I would say a couple things. First of all, let's close the gap. You know, any way it can be closed, let's close it. If it's called marketing, let's do a better job with that. I think the NCAA tournament for the women have shown that it's got the biggest potential of growth. I mean, the ratings are up. More people are invested in it. More people watched it. So give the sports a chance. And then once you start to watch it, see yourself into the play. See your family members, your daughter, your niece, anyone, that they can do it. But give them the equal tools to be successful. And I think if we can get people on board with that, it's hard to be a student athlete. It's hard to be an athlete. Let's face it. You've got to have, your body, your food, everything right. So give it a chance and give them the tools, and they'll prove that they're just as desirable, just fun to watch as anyone on the planet.
Ladies, thank you so much. As I said earlier, super guest. You were better than advertised. Gave me a lot of great information. Obviously, whoever listens, who tunes in, will be getting much more information also. Would you like to leave us where we can connect with each of you on social media, so people, I know once they listen, will say, how can I connect with Coach? How can I connect with Mckenna? Any social media platforms you want to give out, Coach?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you. I mean, you are a guy hosting women on this topic.
Uncle Smoothie loves the ladies.
I know that, and you've been the biggest advocate, and you walk it every day. I see how you support your wife in her business. I see how you support all of the sports. So we got to thank you out there, because we need people like you. You have a wide audience. People love you. And now you're giving a platform for this topic. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Social media for me is at Coach Nolan or Dianne Nolan 2015. So, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all open. So come follow.
You're the best, Coach. How about you, Mckenna?
Yeah, so just again to reiterate, thank you so much. It really means a lot, especially as a student athlete, to know that there are people out there supporting women and like wanting to help us take that next step. Obviously, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Mckenna_K. It'll be probably in the caption of this video because my name's hard to spell.
Good stuff. Want to give a quick congratulations to someone from the Big Apple basketball family, BAB. Jalen Blakes, New Jersey ball player, one of the best high school players in the country, class of 2021, committed to Duke. Look forward to seeing this young man. Class act. He was in our last episode. He was a tremendous ball player, tremendous young man. Look forward to seeing him at Duke. As I always say in closing, positive energy is a gift. Be a giver.